Welcome, dear listeners, to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the annals of time, uncovering the hidden threads that weave together the tapestry of human experience. Today, we find ourselves at the threshold of a pivotal moment in history, one that would shake the foundations of Christendom and forever alter the course of Western civilization, the Protestant Reformation. As we delve into this transformative era, let us begin by setting our gaze upon the landscape of 15th century Europe, where the seeds of discontent were sown amidst the grandeur of Renaissance Italy and the mystique of medieval Germany. It was an age of great upheaval, as the printing press, that revolutionary invention of Johannes Gutenberg, began to disseminate knowledge far and wide, kindling a fire of intellectual curiosity that would soon spread like wildfire across the continent. In this fertile ground, we find the precursors to the Reformation, men such as John Wycliffe, who in 1382, at the University of Oxford, challenged the authority of the Church with his translation of the Bible into English. This bold move, which made Scripture accessible to the masses, would later inspire other reformers to follow in his footsteps. Meanwhile, in Bohemia, John Hus, a Czech priest and scholar, was preaching against the corruption and abuses of the Church, calling for a return to the principles of early Christianity. His martyrdom at the Council of Constance in 1415 would become a rallying cry for those seeking reform. As we wander through the narrow streets of Prague, we come across the Charles University, founded by Emperor Charles IV in 1348, where Hus and other reform-minded scholars would engage in heated debates about theology and philosophy. The air is thick with the smell of parchment and ink, as scribes painstakingly copy manuscripts by hand, spreading the ideas of these early reformers far and wide. In the midst of this intellectual ferment, we find the likes of Peter Waldo, a wealthy merchant from Lyon, who in the 12th century began to preach against the excesses of the Church, advocating for a simpler, more austere way of life. His followers, known as the Waldensians, would establish communities throughout Europe, living according to their own interpretation of Scripture, and paving the way for later reformers. As we explore the earliest days of the Reformation, we find ourselves in the midst of a complex web of theological debate, political intrigue, and social upheaval. The rise of humanism, with its emphasis on classical learning and individualism, had created an environment in which reform-minded thinkers could flourish. Meanwhile, the corruption and abuse of power within the Church had created widespread disillusionment among the faithful. In the cities and towns of Europe, a growing middle class, empowered by the rise of trade and commerce, began to demand greater autonomy and representation. The Reformation's emphasis on individual faith and scriptural authority resonated deeply with this emerging class, who saw in it an opportunity to challenge the traditional hierarchies and seek a more direct connection with the divine. The likes of Martin Luther, Huldrych Zwingli, and John Calvin, though not yet on the scene, are already being shaped by the intellectual and spiritual currents of their time. As we find ourselves in the midst of 16th century Europe, the Reformation is gaining momentum, with Martin Luther's 95 Theses, published in 1517, sparking a firestorm of debate and controversy. The printing press, that revolutionary invention of Johannes Gutenberg, is disseminating Luther's ideas far and wide, allowing his message to reach a wider audience and galvanize support among the faithful. We see the likes of Philip Melanchthon, a brilliant theologian and linguist, joining forces with Luther, helping to shape the theological underpinnings of the Reformation. In the city of Zurich, we find Huldrych Zwingli, a charismatic preacher and theologian who was leading the charge against the Church's corruption and abuses. His sermons, filled with passion and conviction, are drawing large crowds as he calls for a return to the principles of early Christianity. The Zurich Reformation, as it comes to be known, is marked by a series of dramatic events, including the infamous affair of the sausages, where a group of reform-minded individuals publicly break the Church's rules regarding fasting and dietary restrictions. As we make our way to Geneva, we encounter John Calvin, a brilliant theologian and organizer who is building a thriving community of reformers. His seminal work, The Institutes of the Christian Religion, published in 1536, provides a systematic and comprehensive framework for Reformed theology, shaping the course of Protestantism for centuries to come. we see the emergence of a vibrant network of churches and schools, as Calvin's followers established themselves in cities and towns across Europe. In the midst of this intellectual and spiritual ferment, we find the Anabaptists, a radical group of reformers who are pushing the boundaries of theological innovation. Their emphasis on adult baptism, communal living, and pacifism is seen as a threat by both Catholics and mainstream Protestants, leading to persecution and martyrdom. The likes of Michael Sattler, a former Benedictine monk turned Anabaptist leader, are willing to risk everything for their convictions, demonstrating the depth of passion and commitment that defines this period. As we explore the complex web of alliances and rivalries between different Protestant groups, we witness the emergence of key figures such as Henry VIII, who is navigating the treacherous waters of English politics, seeking to assert his authority over the Church. The English Reformation, with its unique blend of theological and political motivations, is marked by a series of dramatic events, including the execution of Thomas More and John Fisher, two prominent Catholic leaders who refused to recognize the king's supremacy. Throughout this period, we see the rise of powerful Protestant dynasties, such as the Hohenzollerns in Prussia and the Wittelsbachs in Bavaria, who are using their influence to shape the course of the Reformation. We witness the emergence of vibrant cultural and artistic movements as Protestantism inspires a new wave of creativity and innovation. The likes of Albrecht Dürer, a brilliant artist and engraver, are creating works that reflect the theological and intellectual currents of their time. The Protestant Reformation, with its complex interplay of theological, political, and social forces, has forever altered the landscape of Western civilization, shaping the course of modern history in profound and lasting ways. As we find ourselves in the midst of 17th century Europe, the Reformation has sparked a series of devastating conflicts, including the 30 Years' War, which ravages the Holy Roman Empire from 1608 to 1648. This brutal conflict, fought between Catholic and Protestant states, results in widespread destruction, massacres, and a significant decline in population. The war ultimately leads to the Treaty of Westphalia, signed in 1648, which recognizes the principle of sovereignty and the coexistence of different Christian denominations within the empire. In England, the Reformation takes a unique turn, as the Church of England, established by Henry VIII, navigates a complex web of theological and political tensions. The Puritans, a radical group of Protestants, seek to further reform the Church, leading to a series of conflicts with the English monarchy. The English Civil War, fought from 1642 to 1651, pits the royalist supporters of King Charles I against the parliamentarian forces, ultimately resulting in the execution of the king and the establishment of a republican government under Oliver Cromwell. As we explore the cultural and artistic landscape of post-Reformation Europe, we witness a flourishing of literary and musical creativity. The likes of John Milton, a brilliant English poet, and George Friedrich Handel, a renowned German composer, create works that reflect the theological and intellectual currents of their time. The emergence of new scientific discoveries, such as the works of Galileo Galilei and Johannes Kepler, challenges traditional understanding of the universe and humanity's place within it. In the realm of politics, the Reformation's emphasis on individual conscience and the priesthood of all believers contributes to the development of modern democracy. The likes of John Locke, an English philosopher, and the Scottish Presbyterian minister Andrew Melville argue for the importance of limited government, religious toleration, and the protection of individual rights. The Reformation's complex interplay of theological, political, and social forces has shaped the course of modern history, influencing the development of democracy, individual rights, and cultural creativity. In conclusion, the Protestant Reformation was a transformative period in human history, marked by intense intellectual and spiritual ferment. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Protestant Reformation. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.